On the Level podcast, your Masonic podcast. Join the hosts Billy McIntyre and Sam Earl Sedgey as they delve into the world of Freemasonry.
Welcome, brethren, sisters, people of the world, to yet another episode of On the Level podcast. I'm your host, Sam Earl Sedgey, and with me is worshipful brother and past most illustrious Grand Master of the Cryptic Masons of the state of Illinois, Billy McIntyre. How are you, Billy?
Hello, Sam. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's not as epic as your openings, but I do try my best, and it's good to do another episode. I really enjoyed the last one we did. That was a lot of fun, and we just had a fantastic interview with our right worshipful grand brother, our grand junior warden, our eminent, our venerable Patrick Grubbs, who's been on our show a couple of times now. And he's always a blast. He's a ball of shining light, and he always gets me enthusiastic. And it's just incredible what they're doing, man. It's incredible what the Grand Lodge of Illinois are doing, and it's just a fantastic case study of leadership done right in your state, and in a state where Freemasonry is growing.
Every one of these grand officers make you want to pick up the torch and run forward and, do your part to grow Masonry.
That's right. Before we start, if you guys hear some background noise, first of all, I have my aircon on. It's not that hot here, but I always like to have aircon in my house, and have it nice and cool. I'm English. I grew up in miserable weather, so I like miserable weather. I like it nice and cold. And if you hear some other more background, I have this ice machine that I've grown to love and care for. It's a fantastic piece of tech that for some reason is not released anywhere else around the world, but it's got this UV light and everything. You pour water in it, the UV light will ensure that any bacteria, anything else, gets cleansed, and then it just punches out this restaurant style ice, and I use it for my Diet Coke. And so I'm right now in my music studio, my hobby crafting studio, my recording studio, all the way in the ancient lands of Cathay. And with me is my brother from another mother, Billy, and I always look forward of doing these episodes. And it's just such an honor to be able to talk to have thousands of listeners and have over a legion of subscribers listening to just what you and me have to say. And it's been a lot of fun, Billy.
We're good. You know what? If we're not at it, we've got almost 1,500 people listening to us now, and that's
1,500. Jesus,
incredible. Yeah, pretty close to that many followers, and that's really good.
That's amazing. That's actually
we're blessed beyond anything I could ever imagine.
Well,
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for the listeners who are listening and who enjoy the content that we do, and it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed every moment of it, whether it's a historical podcast that we've put on regarding Freemasonry, whether it's interviewing all these grand officers from different parts of Freemasonry around the world. It's been an absolute blast, and it's been kind of infectious. I mean, I love listening to the shows, and it's really nice to see that there is a group of men who are trying to do their best, not only just be a better version of themselves, but also try to do their best for their communities, for their lodges, and for the people around them. I mean, what really touched when I talk a bit about it in the interview to come, is there was a memorial. Do you want to explain to the non-Americans around the world what Memorial Day is?
You want me to? Is that what you said?
Since you are
okay,
the American of the
I would love to. I would love to. So what Memorial Day is, it's the day that we set aside. It was set aside to honor the men and women that give the ultimate sacrifice and give up their life in service to their country so that we may have the freedoms that we celebrate, the freedoms that we take for granted. And because of what they give, we're able to live the lives we live. So we should have more than one day, but unfortunately, we only have this one day. We have every day we should celebrate. We celebrate this day. We set this day aside to celebrate that and celebrate those who did die in service.
Well said. And I want to expand on that a bit because I'm very fortunate to be well traveled, and I travel a lot. And right now, I'm in Grand Cafe, and I think sometimes we get in the West, whether it's America or the United Kingdom or elsewhere, we get very comfortable in where we're at, and we don't realize how good we have it in comparisons to the rest of the world in terms of the freedoms, the inalienable rights that they have that you
Hmm.
have in the United States of America, the meritocracy, the fact that the American dream is possible in the greatest extent. The fact that in other countries, whether it is the structure or where it's just phenomenal through the ages of if you look back at your ancestors, no matter what country you come from, you go back 500 years, you are much more better off than they were, and that's through sacrifice. And a lot of people have died and bled, generations, in World War One and Two, who sacrificed themselves for us to have what we have today. Has all come from
Right.
something. It didn't come from nothing. And so Memorial Day is very important. And as an expat from the UK, witnessing this day that um, the Americans take very seriously was actually very touching. It was like V-Day. We do V-Day and remember the dead and the fallen of World War One and World War Two, and honor our veterans of all eras. What's really got me was I remember I was in Hyvie. They got the Hyvie petrol station, and I'm me being me. I'm polite. I say thank you. I just the way I am, and I think I was getting my famous Diet Coke fix over there. They have this big, massive 30. America, you got these 32-ounce cups, and it's kind of difficult to adjust when you're in the PRC. You get these little cups, and they're not little because they're kind of like normal size that you get it in Europe or in England. But in America, you can get these giant size plastic
Oh,
cups.
52 ounce if you
50
wanted
to
to.
52. These monster sized cups that really
Yeah.
in other places it's just non-existent. And
Yeah.
anyhow, I'll get my Diet Coke, and I can't remember what happened, but it was just me, saying good morning, and I saw this man. I was one of the Memorial Days, and he had his veterans cap on, and I just said, "Hey, thank you for your service. I appreciate what you've done," and that meant a lot to him. Just as random guy in there, and I was lining up, paying for my Diet Coke and probably a Snickers bar, and this gentleman was behind me. And as I got to the counter, I said, "You know what? I want to pay for your drink and your chocolate." And I was like, "No, no, no, I'm good. I'll pay for it." "No, no, no, I'm paying for it." And after a tit for a tat for about a couple, I kind of like relent. I said, "This guy's not going to give up." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And that happened to me a couple of times. That happened to me once with that gentleman. And then there was this active duty serviceman, because in the Illinois Peoria area, I believe the recruitment for the American Army is in the Peoria, Illinois area, just outside Peoria. It's not in Peoria, but it's just
Yeah.
outside Peoria. I had a brother who was the head of. We initiated a brother who was fantastic. I think his name was Wesley, and he was the head of recruitment for the army, and became a master mason. But then he had to move to another base I think it was in Kentucky or Missouri. But anyhow, this active service duty guy, again in this Hy-Vee petrol station at a different time, I saw the active service guy, and I just, he passed by. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I just want to thank you for your service and appreciate what you're doing." And that's what I want to. I just want to thank him. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing, and thank you, sir. And again, he bought me my drink. I didn't go up to these guys to get free drinks, but it means a lot to them. They've gone through those who are in active duty, those who have served, and some of those who have served in particular theatres of war. in America, or it means a lot to. They've been through a lot. They've gone through a different grind. A lot of them come back to civilian life, finding it difficult to adjust to civilian life. The army, the military is a way of life. It's part of the American culture, and to have that Memorial Day is phenomenal. And I've been going there for nearly 10 years, and that was the 1 year just this year that I missed. And I've been taking my son to the breakfasts, and all we do is we go up in the breakfast, and there are all these veterans from different parts of the American military, and my boy goes up and I make sure he thanks them. So since the age of 5, he's been going to each one of these guys at this Ivy and saying thank you for your service. And what's really nice is, without any expectation, some of these servicemen, ex-servicemen, will give their patches. So one of the big thing about the US military is all these patches that they have, military patches. And so my son started collecting these military patches that were just given to him. These men are good men and women, as you said. They serve, they've got big hearts. They're putting the neck out the line, and they're doing a lot, and a good portion of them as well are Freemasons as well. So there's quite a bit of Freemasons. There are military lodges. My brother Wesley, who went, who he raised, and who went on, going up in the ranks. I think he's a colonel now. There was a Scottish Rite Lodge in the base he was at, which is pretty awesome. There's another bunch of Masons who are my close brothers of mine, who I meet every year in Washington D.C. I go to a convention. I'm a vendor for tabletop wargaming, and these guys are generals, and they're Freemasons, and they came up to me, and what was really honourable is one of these guys. He was one of the advisors to the chief of staff, the military chief of staff, and he gave me the chief of staff's badge. And I've known him for years now, and every time he comes, we spend time and we talk and we have a good time. And he used to advise the top military brass of the American military. He's American and the military general himself, and we had a blast. And we communicate every now and then. He's busy. I think he's now a private consultant to the military, and we have a good time talking, and it's just good men, and it's good to meet brothers who are active duty or veterans in the military, and non-brothers who are just good men and women who serve. And so my point is the fact that the Grand Lodge made an amazing effort into the day and went down to my local highway, which is literally 3 minutes away from my ranch, which made me gutted because I wish I would have been there in support. There were several thousand Masons, and I think it was in the tens of thousands, so don't quote me here, but it was several thousands of Masons signed this card in respect to Veterans Day, and they showed this huge card with the Grand Lodge officers, and that really touched me. I just think it's so important for Freemasons to be out there and showing support to the firemen, the police, the military, everyone, the teachers. I mean, we support the Masonic Bowl. The Masonic Academic Bowl is one of the most amazing educational things that we do in Illinois that just blows my mind away. And seeing all these kids compete on this academic challenge is just phenomenal. So yeah, good. My hat's off to them. So sorry going on this kind of like rant, but I think it's important to state.
It's a very important thing.
Yes.
And it's very important. It shows that the Grand Lodge is remembering the ones that fallen, especially our brothers, but not only them, but everyone, every one of the service members that's fallen in service to our country.
Yeah, and a lot of Freemasons historically have given up their lives for the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, in Germany, 200 during the realm of the rise of Hitler and the Nazis, over 200,000 German brothers were killed for being Freemasons. And so around Europe, around that time of the massacre and the killings, we would wear this blue pin called Forget Me Not, and it's remembering those Masons who died for their beliefs and for their fraternity, on the spite of tyranny and Nazism. And World War II, the United Grand Lodge of England. If you get a historical tour there, the first thing they'll tell you that this was built in memory of the fallen brethren in World War One. We have historical records where there were lodges. There was one lodge, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of the lodge off the top of my head, but there was this one lodge which had 250 active members, and the worshipful master at the time in 1912 was a lord, and this English lord was a worshipful master. All of these 250 active members, which is insane. Insane. Imagine today the lodge in Illinois having 250 active, and what we mean by that, the people who turn up at stated meetings, 250. All of them, when World War One broke out, all of them signed up. They all signed up to the war to defend their country and go to war. And World War One being one of the most horrendous conflicts known to man in our history. At 1917, at the end of World War One, when everyone returned, that lodge had 0 members. They all died. These are men who are fathers, probably fathers, could have been fathers, could have had wives, could have had children, all gone, dead. A whole generation of good men wiped out. And if you listen into our Empires and Craft episode, we go into what I've done in my research, where there was a near extinction level event in Masonry because of the 2 world wars, and we'll probably go into that a bit deeper when we've got more time, Billy, on the show, where we talk about the near extinction level events, where we were in our prime, or we were in the epitaph. We were literally in our zenith pre World War One, and because our fraternity relies on membership and numbers, we were literally in Europe initially wiped out nearly. A lot of us were wiped out, and the rebuilding is still continuing as of today. And World War Two,
And
go on.
I was going to say, and we talk about so many times, children, whether they talk about it or not, they see their fathers and their grandfathers and that going to Masonic halls and that, and they're involved because it's so family friendly. And when they're wiped out, there is no kids, so that's a whole generation and 2 generation, another generation after that's completely wiped out. They'll never see not only that generation, but several more after that's wiped out that would have possibly been Masons. So you're not only wiping out that person there, you're wiping out generations to come of Masons. So that's what happened to the Masons. They wondered, well, what happened to all of them? That's what's happened.
Absolutely. And in World War II, the biggest casualty rating for men prior COVID, if COVID didn't happen, this will still be the biggest number. The biggest casualty rate in American history for men was World War II. It was it had such an impact of seeing brethren being wiped out, and we were one of the first to call on the draft, go and draft up to join World War II, and people say, well, why would the Freemasons be the first to call up? Well, in America, before the lodges start, one of the first things they do is they pledge allegiance to the flag. The Freemasons are very patriotic. So if you go today they are. So if you go now and you go back to 1939, prior to the outbreak, and I know the Americans joined a bit later, in I think in 1941, 1942.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. I'm just doing that on my head right now. Loads of Masons signed up. In fact, loads of Masons were top generals. Eisenhower was a Freemason, and so Masonry ran through the entire American military. Loads of Americans were killed. Loads of Masons were killed. And so, what do I mean by that? Take the Masonic side out. For a father to go and be on active duty tour for a year, 6 months, 2 years, or a mother being away from a kid for a year or 2 or 6 months or 8 months at a time, being away from your child That's huge. I'm lucky. I had well, I wish I had my boy 10, 15 years earlier because with regret, we've learnt that it would have been fantastic to have three kids. We had our boy late when I was 37 and she was 35, and we wish we started in our 20s. So that that mistake, hopefully, my son won't recur. I told him he's only 8. I told him when you're 20 years old, young man, you get married and they'll give me 3 grandchildren, but not 3 grandchildren. Thank you very much. We'll be there day in day out to support. But you're a kid that's 5 years old. There's these videos that you can see that warms my heart, on the YouTube stuff, where these soldiers return, men or women, and how children break down and crying, running to their families because the kid hasn't seen their dad or their mum in 6 months or a year. Whilst
Right.
the rest of the non-civilian population, you're fortunate that mum and dad, if you have a mum and dad, you get to see them every day through school. But there are these kids in the country that don't get to see their mum or their dad for every now and then because that particular person has made the sacrifice to protect. So that's what Memorial Day is. It's not as simple as, oh, this is what it is. There's a lot more human relevance to this day, and what it does, and the sacrifice. Not to see your kid because you're in active duty deployment, whether it's deployment in Asia or in Okinawa or in Germany or in the many different parts of the world, or through what's going on today in the in the Gulf, basically, in the Gulf states and in that particular area of the world. Um, we forget the human element. We're forgetting that there are fathers and mothers that are away from their young kids, and that has an effect on people's lives as well. And so we have to be very appreciative of the guy or the girl who's in active duty military who doesn't get to see their 8-year-old boy. So for me, it's like I'm very thankful that I see my 8-year-old boy every single day. We've been watching one movie a day here, Star Wars. It was for the first time he's watched A New Hope. He's watched episodes 4, 5, and 6. That, to me, as a geek, as a gamer, for him to enjoy it and love it has been a big deal for me. I took him and we saw the Grocco movie, the new Star, which he loved as well. So that's been a huge, big deal. And then we watched He-Man this week in the cinemas, and I loved He-Man. It had everything. It's He-Man the way it should be. And what's really funny is He-Man's got a Templar cross in his chest. I thought that was kind of funny. Originally, he'd had a Templar cross when he was created, and they kind of changed it in the 2000s. I'm glad they kept the Templar cross in the in the actual current movie. But I know I'm going off on one, but what I'm trying to be emblematic about is also think about the human side of the story of what that Memorial Day is, and what we mean. Because sometimes it's easy to say we're doing it because they made a sacrifice, or we're doing it because they are protecting. But sometimes a lot of people quiff at that. Oh, okay, whatever, But do understand there are human elements. It's people being away from their families whilst we're cuddling our families, or we're comfortable in our nice little warm beds, air conditioned environment, and they're on this small little rack on a ship, or in this little base with a little cot, basically, that's really uncomfortable. They've been eating military food that isn't your 3 or 4 star service food. Like we can have a Nando's here, or a nice little steak dinner. So there is a lot of sacrifice, and you have to bring that human element. And sometimes I think it's important to talk about that human element, because we tend to forget it as civilians tend to forget that, I think, or not know it because they haven't experienced it. So that's why I've gone off on a bit of a rant on this, and it's
Right.
and it's close to my heart because historically, as us Freemasons and what we've done and what we've gone through, and a lot of us are veterans of our countries. So that's what I've had to say. What are your thoughts, Billy?
You pretty much covered them. There's a lot. There's a lot to be thankful for in this country and others. For what the military men and women has done for us, and I think that our Grand Lodge and the brothers that even took time to sign that card, it meant a lot to a lot of people. and especially people that has lost loved ones, that seen that the Mason took the time to do that, and it moved a lot of hearts, and I think that's a great thing. And
Absolutely.
never take for granted some little thing that might move one person. It's worth it.
Absolutely, a small thank you when you see an officer in uniform who's been serving. You know, we always think of the human element. The kid that they'll never see their father again because he gave the ultimate sacrifice, or the kid whose dad never came because of their graduation because he was on deployment, or their birthday being missed because. So these are the things that a lot of people don't see. And so what I'm trying to say is every day I'm thankful that I'm with my boy. Every day I'm thankful that I see my wife. And it's because of great men and women who serve, who protect us, who have made the sacrifice. That enables me to have these moments with my boy. And I don't need to have my weapons protecting my local village or my local town. I don't need to basically be worried about the village next door or the town next door, whether they're going to come and basically ravage my town because we've got more fish or more beef or more steak or whatever. And that's what it used to be like when you go 800, 900,
Yeah.
1,000 years ago. So there's a lot that sometimes I think we take for granted and when we actually break it down, to humble yourself and to realize and that's the reason why I'm so grateful when I see these, whether it's in the UK or in America, even here, regardless of the politics, regardless of, what, even there, it's the same ordeal. So I always have a respect, even though I may give an English salute, there's always a respect of, that honorable respect from one warrior to another warrior of, I understand the sacrifice you're making, the fact that you're away from your mum and your dad, the fact that you're away from your girlfriend or from your wife or from your kids. It's always knowing that, these great men and women, regardless of the politics, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, these are the warriors who are protecting us and keeping us safe. So that's all I've got to say.
Well, and from the people, and most of our listeners are from the states, and I'm thankful for the ones that aren't, as well as the ones that are. But it's hard for me, even from the states, to remember that not every country. I think we're the only country that does have a day that honors the
That's
veterans.
right.
I'm not sure. Does England have a
Well,
Veterans Day official?
Well,
Or
we have a VE day. We have a few military days. We do have something similar, but not as prolific. But one thing that always, I remember even when I was a kid coming to America, and I called myself a kid when I was in the 20s. One thing that always remarked me is how proud and patriotic Americans were and how respectful they were for the military. And one thing that always I have a great respect for that. I hope that other nations follow. Is the priority, especially in the flights, the way you prioritize veterans to come on the flights. I thought that was very respectful. The way you respect your veterans, I think America does probably the best job at it. I hope that we do more of that in the United Kingdom. We do some of it, but I think that a lot more can be done to an extent, and I think other countries the same as well. I think there's something that warrior culture that's been emulated. I think it's important, but I think it's important. I think, and I really like it, and that's one of the reasons why I love America so much. Is that respect for the warrior culture, that deep understanding, and the fact that it's voluntary as well. So, like in the British military is also voluntary as well, but also being emblematic of it and responding to it and understanding that these are the people who served and protected the nation, and having pride in your country and pride in those people who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice is not only giving your life to the country, but it's not seeing your boy grow up. It's not seeing your daughter grow up. It's not being with your wife who you married.
Yeah.
And the sacrifice that wives had to make for not seeing, and all those times they've missed, it's huge. It's huge, and it's not easy. Life's not easy, and it's difficult. and it brings a lot of challenges. And I know a lot of veterans, especially I hang around with a lot of military guys in England and in America, but a lot of the guys, unless you're like mad like me, you come back and it's tough. It's tough. People go through a lot. People see a lot. Some people handle it in different ways. Some worse than others.
Right.
And so I think as Masons and Freemasons, um, you know, uh, acknowledging this to who are people in our community, and not just them, officers who every day in day out, they wake up and then they're not sure if they're going to come back home and see their kids or see their wives and stuff like that. That sacrifice as well. So it's just be thankful, be humble. We're very, very privileged. We're very, very lucky in what we're doing. And we've got good people who are trying their best. Not everything is perfect, obviously, but, the more active and more involved we are in our community of being a better version of ourselves, the better things will be. And as I said, I've always said, there's a leadership crisis in this world, and the more Freemasons we have, the better it will be, whether it's Freemasons in the community, in the military, in the police force, in the security services, whatever it is, wherever we are, we seem to be doing some good, Billy.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Any last words, brother?
No, that again, like I said before in the interview, thank you for being with us and thank you for hearing us out. We're very blessed to have the Grand Line come in as often as they do. I did talk to Patrick. Boy, I did it again. I said at the end of the interview, I don't mean any disrespect. I've known uh, grand officers, a couple of them, a long time, especially Right Worshipful uh, Patrick Grubbs for years before he was in the office, and it's very hard for me to separate that sometimes because I talk to him a lot, and I mean nothing but respect for the man. He is such a good brother and such a good friend, and sometimes it gets hard for me to separate that. And but he is a wonderful officer, and these guys are so approachable, and I think that's what has made them such good officers. These are great guys, and you know we are blessed to have the officers we do and have in line right now, and um, we just all need to remember how lucky we are. And he had said that he promises to work on those the the junior and senior deacon to get them to come on the show as well because they need to come forward so that the people can learn who they are as well through the show like the rest of them have. And I said that would be great. We would be blessed to have them on the show. And so you guys can meet them like we do. So with that, I would say thank you and please continue to listen. It helps us helps us a lot.
Welcome to yet another episode of Underlevel Podcast. I'm with my worshipful brother, Billy McIntyre, and Right Worshipful Grand Junior Warden, Patrick Grubbs. How are you, gentlemen?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. In sunny and warm cafe, and the aircon's keeping me nice and bright and alive, and I've been serviced with a supply of constant Diet Coke with ice, so I can't complain. Billy, how are you, brother?
I'm swell. Do they use real sugar over there in China, or do they have corn syrup like we do here in U.S.?
Well, I'm on the Diet Coke, so I can't have too much sugar.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't know if they had, artificial flavors, or do they have? Well,
it used to be there was no such thing as Diet Coke 10 years ago. But as this country, as people got fat on good food and started to consume more, they switched to diet. Brazil's kind of funny. Brazil, it's very difficult to get Diet Coke. It doesn't exist. Too many thin people in Brazil, I guess. But anyhow, I'm really, really excited. There's been a lot of things going on in Illinois, and the Grand Line of Illinois have been doing a lot of stuff. And something that was really inspiring, actually, I want to dive into a couple of things. Is the reunion Right Worshipful Brother Patrick Grobbs had, but also this fantastic memorial in honoring the state of Illinois, in honoring the veterans who have served our country and those who have died in service to the country of the United States of America. And something that's actually close to my heart, because they actually went to the Hy-Vee, which is this big, massive like supermarket, which is actually 3 minutes away from my home, from my ranch over there. And every year I would go for the breakfast and thank the veterans. I would take my little boy to thank the veterans as well. And this year, sadly, for the first time in 10 years, I couldn't go. But it warmed my heart that the Grand Line went and did something phenomenal with a card and signatures. But I'll let Right Worshipful Patrick Grobbs, our Grand Steward, talk more about that. So, Patrick, what's been going on?
Oh, the Grand Line has just been crazy busy this year. There again, we were up in Peoria for that veteran memorial. That was really good. I missed that. My granddaughter had shoulder surgery, so I couldn't make the trip. Stayed down here to make sure she was okay, and everything turned out. But the Grand Lodge, we've just been busy. 2026 has just been crazy for us. We've already had a couple of rededications and a cornerstone in St. Clair.
Right.
It just seems like we're traveling a lot. And of course, I'm the junior Grand Warden, so I'm in charge of all the official visits. So the 400 official visits that the district deputies do statewide all, funnel to me eventually. So we've been busy with those. Of course, the town hall, we've all had the 15 town halls this year. There's 3 in every area. They've just been completed. And really, I think they've turned out very well. It's just a great way for the brethren to meet the Grand Lodge officers and maybe bring up some thoughts and some ideas and some concerns that we can just say, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we try this? Or how come we're not doing this? And once we kind of go through all those ideas, and then we start informing the brethren, about our charities, MCAP and IMOS and MSAP. So the town halls, I think, are very important, and they were a big hit this year. I think the biggest crowd we had was up in Brother Angelo's lodge, Matson, up in Joliet. I think he had the largest crowd.
Oh, wow.
But we've had some good crowds here in the southern area, and the thing about the Matson Lodge, they do theirs on a Saturday morning, and the Demo Lay does a fundraiser breakfast.
Good.
So that's a real good idea, and it's just a good program, and we're real proud of that town hall. But we've just been busy running all over the state.
400 official visits. I mean, 365 days. That's insane. Sorry, buddy, go on.
No, I was just saying that, this Grand Line is incredibly busy. And I was telling Patrick earlier, we hear amongst ourselves, I guess Sam don't so much because he's gone, but I hear a lot from the people that listen to the podcast tell me how much they feel that this Grand Line is so approachable. And they said that's so great. They think it's wonderful that they hear from them, and they feel that they know them better than they have the ones in the past. And that's not taking anything away from the ones in the past. I mean, I've got great respect from every one of the ones that I've had the pleasure of meeting, and I just think that says a lot for our grand officers.
Yeah, we do. We got a real good group here, and it's just. We enjoy what we do. We kind of take ourselves serious, but there's a time to, kind of shift gears, have fun, enjoy the fraternity, and, don't worry about the titles and just go to the town halls, give them the information and see where it goes. We try really hard to be approachable.
What was really interesting? What was really interesting for me was the emphasis on Memorial Day, and there was a card that was signed by several thousand Master Masons of the state of Illinois. So for our listeners around the world, Memorial Day is a day where, in the United States, there is the day where veterans are respected, those who have served their country, those who have fought in many wars to protect and secure the country, and just a massive welcome and respect to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
And what's really nice is every year that Hy-Vee establishment I talk about, they give out free breakfasts to veterans. And it's a really nice place. And as Right Worshipful Grand Junior Warden Patrick Grubbs has just said, the turnout was great. And could you just explain a bit more about that card? Because I saw that post and that really touched my heart. And there was, I don't want to quote the numbers, but how many thousands of our brethren in Illinois signed that card?
Well, to be honest, I was just looking that up. There was a lot. We were very pleased with all the signatures and the support and backing. It was a very, very big deal. And, the Grand Master was there and the Deputy Grand, and I think Brother Angelo was up there in Peoria. And it was just, it was really nice. And I'm trying to look how many, there was several signatures on that just to supporting the veterans.
That's huge. Yeah, so it was in several thousands that blew me away. And again, that's one thing that you guys didn't have to do at all, but you did it. And you put the effort into it. And it's just very humbling of seeing what the Grand Line officers of the state of Illinois in free and agent accepted Masons do in terms of the state and the outreach. But tell us about your reception, because apparently that was super epic. And unfortunately, I'm thousands of miles away in the ancient lands of Cathay, and I really wanted to go to this one. So give us a rundown of what a reception is, why did you guys do it, and what happened?
Well, it's just kind of tradition. The incoming Junior Grand Warden has a reception. I don't believe the Grand Master, when he was a junior, I don't think he had one, and that was due to COVID. But other than that, it is tradition that the Junior Grand Warden has a reception. And me and my wife were just sitting around, probably back in November, of just kind of brainstorming things, or what are we going to do and how are we going to do it. And, of course, she's like, well, what kind of theme? And I said, I don't know what kind of theme. I like sports. I like hunting. And she's like, well, let's not do that kind of stuff. And we were just kind of,
and everybody knows the wives are going to get their way. So we got to go with that.
Well, yeah. And then finally we just said, how about let's eliminate the suits, the tuxedos, the ties, the nice dresses, the high heels, khakis, polos, just come and have a good time, no stress. And it kind of built from that. And we have a beautiful facility, probably 20 minutes from my house, and that's the Wren Lake Golf Course. And that's 27 holes of pristine golf course, golfing down here in Southern Illinois. And it's a beautiful golf course, and they have a hotel and they have condos. And then they just purchased an event center probably about a year and a half ago. So they were pretty proud to show it off on this event. And the staff there were just simply wonderful. They bent over backwards for us and gave us pretty much everything we wanted. And then we had blocks of rooms for any guest that was staying the night. So it worked out very well. And I've heard horror stories where things don't work out well. There's always, bumps in the roads and bad things happen. And thank goodness, nothing really bad happened. It worked out very well. I think we sold, 200, close to 200 tickets.
Oh my God!
Which was
wow,
well beyond what we thought. And the room only held 225, so we were really worried we were going to be cramped in there.
Wow!
And the event center said, you know what, we only have 200 chairs. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll have to borrow some. But we didn't get that far. There were some people, they just couldn't make it, and they had weddings and anniversaries and vacations, and They just
Right.
so it worked out. It was really a fun time. Uh, of course, what Masonic event we not do introductions, so I had to introduce pretty much half the people in the room. Two of the past masters of my lodge volunteered. Thank you very much to Jason Shadowins and Andrew McRoy. They volunteered to introduce everybody in the room, and I thought we're going to miss somebody someplace. And lo and behold, I don't think we missed anybody. We didn't skip anybody, so they done a really good job. Of course, we introduced the past Grand Masters and the Grand Lodge officers and district deputies and the board of grand examiners, and it worked very, very. It was so smooth. It was shocking. It ran so smooth.
I'm not gonna take credit for this, and it's not original because I've heard it before. But I did notice somebody stomping their foot, and I looked at them and they said, I had to stomp that bug because I was afraid they was going to introduce that one too. And I said, okay. Now I have heard that at a Masonic function, but it did make me laugh just the same.
Yeah, we had a lot of introductions, to say the least. So, and we had 7 past Grand Masters show up, and
wow.
that was simply amazing. Benny Grissom, Rick Swaney, Gregory Clark, Oakley, Mike Williams, Dave P. Lynch. It was just amazing having 7 past Grand Masters there. I was really honored with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mate,
and if you were there, I'm not going to describe it, but if Right Worshipful Mike Reaney, Right Worshipful Chuck Sims, and Right Worshipful Joe Klepper, and Worshipful Brother Kevin Acosta had a little surprise for me. So that was, to say the least, very interesting. So.
And those guys are
what was the
wonderful
surprise?
brothers. That's all I'm going to say.
What was the surprise?
They are wonderful brothers, and it turned out good, and it turned out to be a fun event. But most of all, my whole family was there. All my kids got to make it.
Oh wow!
That was I got 2 daughters and a son. They were both there, and then my 4 grandkids were there. And it was just a great time. And at the end of it, my granddaughters and the Masonic rings that I wear are usually, the tungsten, the $25 ring, because I hit walls, I hit chairs. I'm rough on
absolutely.
rings. And I normally buy the cheapest rings, and they last a couple of years. But the whole family came together and bought me a very, very nice Masonic ring. And my granddaughters presented that to me.
Wow.
Oh, that's really cool.
And that got me a little teary-eyed. I just love them to death.
Yeah.
And then my grandson, who just graduated high school, came up and he said, hey, I got you a present too. And we've been talking about going duck hunting together. And I thought, well, he probably got me a new duck call or something. And the bag was pretty light. And again, I'm thinking probably a gift card or something. And I took the tissue out. And like I told the guests there, it was the best gift a grandpa could ever receive. And he gave me a petition to join.
Oh wow!
And that'll make him a 4th generation Mason in our family. So gosh, I got teary-eyed, I got choked up. He did too, and the crowd just started clapping. So that was the high point of that evening right there. He really surprised me with that.
Well,
that is the best.
They are the future, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Our sons, and the hope that our sons and daughters will have as good as a family or better as a family as our own. And now you've got these beautiful grandchildren, and your grandson gave you that petition, and that heritage and that tradition of Freemasonry continues within the family. And the fact that 200 people gathered, and you had 7 past grandmasters, and it's just phenomenal. I'm really jealous. I wish I was there. And what's really nice, there seems to be a coming together of Masons in the state of Illinois, and it just speaks of when you have strong leadership within the team and you're out there and you're reaching out to people, people are responsive. There is this need of brotherhood, there's this need of community, there's need of leadership, and the as active as you guys have been, you have seen a response, and 200 people is actually phenomenal. Usually 90, 120 is very successful, in these types of events. 50 is actually 50 to 60 is really good, but 200 people, oh my God, that is an epic event, and that bodes well, hopefully, for the future of bigger events. And congratulations, Right Worshipful Brother. I mean, that sounds like an amazing event, and I do like the camaraderie, the Masonic family that came and turned up, your actual family being there, and people who are probably non-Masons as well within your family and friends as well, seeing the fraternity in its full glory. And also what makes me laugh, and also I think it's quite important, keeping to our traditions with those long introductions that may take some time to go through, but it's honoring it's honoring those who have taken their time out of what you've just said, that their family, their business, to put in the effort to build what you guys are building, which is that faith, hope, and charity within the community. Before I dig in a bit more, do you have anything to add into that, Billy?
No. It you know what? When that many brothers come together and their wives and families, it's just, if you're not a Mason, it's hard to describe. It's just so much joy and friendship and fellowship, and you see people that actually enjoy being together. You don't see a bunch of people that are bored and can't wait to go home. You see people that are thrilled to death to be there. It's just something that you can't describe unless you're a Mason to understand it. And I think both these brothers can agree with that, and would say the same thing. It's just a completely different world.
I mean, you were there, Billy, right? You had a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. You just have fun with it, and I mean everybody's laughing and having a good time, and you just have fun together.
And so my next question is: you said 400 official events in 365 days. How'd you do it?
No, is the official visits from the district deputies.
Oh, right, okay.
And most of the district deputies started in January, and the deadline is June 1st. So to get 400 official visits,
Oh, wow.
Of course, got to read all of them and study them. And if the lodge is doing great, that's super. I just kind of slide that over. But if it's a lodge that's struggling, we got to figure out why it's struggling and try to fix that. So it is a lot of work, but that's how we communicate with our lodges and find out who's doing well and who's not and where they're struggling. It just seems like a lot of lodges are struggling to get a quorum. Some of the lodges aren't participating in the Grand Lodge. I don't understand why they're not participating in some of the scholarships. That's free money.
Right.
So we need the district deputy to come in and say, hey, let's talk about the charities. And we just ask them, make sure you push that and get them involved. So,
well, there's the Grandmasters Excellence competition, right? It's called what's the actual official name? The
Grandmaster Ward of Excellence.
The Grandmasters Ward of Excellence. Go on.
That's a proven tool to build your lodge. It just gets the brethren active. When you say, hey, we need 3 people to go to the GL school, or we need 5 people to go and visit Billy's lodge so we can get a point. Let's go to his degree. And it just builds that camaraderie. And then at the end, at the Grand Lodge session in October, if you get gold, then you're actually on the floor. You get your name on the board. You get announced, and it's just an accomplishment for the lodge.
I've experienced the Grand Masters Award of Excellence, and it's spot on. And being a gamer, and being amongst gamers in the fraternity, there's that competitive streak. St. Paul's Lodge 500, does it really well. They always seem to get that gold. So basically, there are 3 levels of achievements. There's the gold, silver, and bronze. And at the
Yeah.
annual grand sessions, those awards are handed out on the Saturday as a recognition of the achievements of what all these lodges have done. And every year, more lodges have participated in this actual scheme, and it's absolutely fantastic. Because what it is what lodges should be doing to relative respect. And the reason why you've got those 3 different tiers, it just depends on where the lodge is. You know, all lodges are different sizes, all lodges have a different level of activity. But if you're, a lodge that's brimming with members and there's a lot of stuff to do, you're primed up to get that silver or gold. If you're a lodge that, has got a few members and you're trying to restart or re-engage or reignite that enthusiasm and that affectiousness of building your community, building up your membership, there's that bronze level to achieve, and then once you've achieved that, you've got the impetus to go to silver. And that's what Frank and Nicole did. Frank and Nicole number 1170. I remember a couple of years ago we achieved bronze, and then the next year, which was last year, we're like, okay, let's try under Worshipful Brother Ryan Miner and with Worshipful Brother Charles Robertson. We're like, let's try and go for silver, and we actually achieved silver. We put the efforts in, we worked as a team. And what was really interesting, Billy, Worshipful Brother Billy and Worshipful Brother Patrick, was the points system and everything does what it did. It bonded us together more. We felt more like a brotherhood. The whole point was to get the lodge together and get to know the brothers. There were things that we had to do, like what I loved. One of the things that I loved was there was also another competition of opening the first degree, second degree, and third degree in the state, and you got a point for that in the Grand Masters Award for Excellence. But what that required of us was coming in every week for about 40 minutes once a week, and practicing our particular chair, our particular ritual that was assigned to us depending on what we were doing in the opening and closing of 1, 2, and 3. And that built a bond. The past masters and people who were very ritual proficient became our tutors, and we grew, and we actually won that in our region, which was fantastic. And then there were other things like went on the internet. There was this kind of like this questionnaire thing on the Grand Lodge page, and it was only live for a certain amount of time, and it was awesome. You had a couple of seconds to answer this thing, and we all answered it, and we got really good scoring basically. And I embarrassed myself because I was 2 years off. There was this trick question about something happened in masonry in the 1700s, and there was like 1782 and 1785, and then there was something like 1796, and I did 85 and it was 82 because everyone looks at me for the historical stuff, and I screwed up by 2 years, but that was fine. But the whole point is that the immense fun. I mean, the ringing of the bells was something that was done last year in Christmas that I keep talking about on the show, where we went out and we rang these bells, and within 4 hours, between the rotation of myself and my brethren in my offices in the lodge, we raised $500 in the 4 hours, which was incredible. And that was, and a lot of that was the inspiration of the Grandmasters Award of Excellence. And I think it's such a great program. And if you're listening and you're a lodge in Illinois, or you're a lodge anywhere around the world, and there's something that is like that, or you haven't got that, dig into it, find out, contact us, contact the Grand Lodge, contact your Grand Lodge to contact the Grand Lodge of Illinois, get the info. It's a really good mechanism, and as Worshipful Patrick said, it is tried and it's tested. I can speak for it, and for me was the bonding, and not only in Frank and Nicole Lodge 1170, but St. Paul's Lodge 500, this dynamic team of absolute, I call them they're not killers, but killers in terms of how just amazing they're, the Masonic killers, where they get to every year when it hits like March, they've already hit in goal, but they've had years of building their lodge. It didn't happen overnight. This was like a 6 to 8 year build where they've got into a routine, and they're just such a emblematic good group of brothers, and they're just so much fun to be around. And in the annual grand sessions, a lot of them drive golf carts to help a lot of our brethren who are, unable to walk as far as they used to due to age or whatever, and they pop them on the golf cart and drive them up to the hotel, which is freaking awesome. But yeah, sorry for going on a bit of a rant, but I wanted to extrapolate one of these fantastic programs that the Grand Lodge of Illinois does under the leadership. So
if it's okay, and Patrick, you know this, or right, worshipful president. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get too formal. I don't want to get out of line here with you, but if I could,
it's Patrick.
If fine. If I may, I'll explain to people how the judging with that goes, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I want the brothers to understand because I've talked to so many of the people that don't understand. So the lodge fills this out, and basically, this is stuff that the lodge should be doing anyway. But if you do this stuff, it helps you become as the the grand officers will all tell you. This stuff will help your lodge become stronger and a tighter brotherhood and a stronger lodge if you're doing it. But you do this, and then you'll turn it into your district and district deputy. And then he'll turn it into the area deputy, if I'm correct.
Correct.
They'll look it over and they'll add up your points and make sure everything's jives. And then they turn it into the Grand Lodge, which I believe is it the Grand Junior Warden?
No, I do the official visits. The senior Grand Warden will do the Grand Master Award of Excellence.
Okay. And
so Brother Angelo will be doing this. Yeah.
Okay. So, I knew I was going to miss one of these. So anyway, so then he'll look that over and he'll do the final tally and decide what that person is going to get. Hopefully that's jives with what the other two people will figure out already. Like this person's got enough points, they're going to get gold. And everybody will be on the same page with that. But, hopefully when you turn that in, you're going to know, hey, we got enough here to get gold. So you should already know that when you turn in because it's not supposed to be a trick. You're supposed to be able to add your own points up, when you go. It's not supposed to be, Chinese arithmetic. No offense there, Sam. I know you're at there. You're supposed to be able to figure all this stuff out. And brothers, it's worthwhile. I've talked to so many brothers. Okay, for example, when I was master a few years ago in Chester Lodge number 72, and that's my secondary lodge, they had done it a few years ago, and they just really didn't like it. And I couldn't understand why don't you guys like it? I was trying to show them. I go, look, you're doing several of these things. Some of these points are a give me. I mean, you've already done most of these. Hey, look, you've already got enough stuff with bronze without trying. Oh, they said, really? Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, look at this and this. You've already done this, and we already do this, and we get, we already do a scholarship. Here's points for this and points for that. Well, then maybe we ought to give it a shot. Well, we did, and then and then God rest his soul. That's the time that Ricky Graw had become a certified lodge instructor. He's passed now. Yeah. And so we got points for that. And they were thrilled. Oh my gosh. Well, you get good points for somebody becoming an instructor of some kind. So that pushed us over the edge and we got gold that year. Well, oh my gosh, that was so easy. Well, no, it wasn't easy because I was the guy over there trying to get all the points. And, there's always that one guy trying to add it up and sweating. And then we got to do this, we got to do that. And, but anyway, we got it. And I said, see, it could be done. Well, yeah, that was easy. And I'm thinking, yeah, it was easy. All right. But, it can be done, and then they've pushed on with that. And I was so, proud to, and now they don't get gold every year, but they do keep going with it. And that's the whole point. You can keep going. You don't have to get gold every year. Just keep going. Get what you can get, and that's the whole point. You just got to keep trying.
Yeah. Keep moving forward.
And it makes you a better lodge. And like Brother Sam has said, it keeps you building, whether you're top of the game or you're still trying to build back. If you lose some brothers or gain some brothers, it's teaching them something along the way.
Yeah, and finally, my final point on this is, you get to do stuff that is out of the norm. Like you get a point for inviting the school that you sponsor. So there's the academic bowl. that happens every year that we've gone into. There's an episode on that, and you get a point for inviting the school you sponsored and having a dinner with them, and you get to meet them, and that was really nice. We
Yeah.
did that last year, and it was really nice to meet the kids. And I come in all dressed up in my regalia and everything like that, and they kind of laugh when I go for a bit of history, and they have a good time, and the teachers love it. And so that's really cool, and just trying to extrapolate, these fantastic programs at the Grand Lodges. But Right Worshipful Brother Patrick Grubbs, I want to know, you've been a junior Grand Warden. What has it been like, especially this year and last year? So I've got two questions. First of all, you're in 2026. You're a few years off, I believe 6 years off, if my maths is correct, of becoming, Touchwood, one of our future grandmasters. You're in this incredible grand line of incredible brothers who are just super enthusiastic. So that's my first question. And my second question is, have you had any of that famous lasagna yet in the past couple of months? So
we're back on the famous lasagna. The Grand Lodge, and I just can't say enough about them. And to be honest, we're in constant contact. We're texting each other, we're emailing, and sometimes it's business wise, and sometimes it just may be a corny joke or a meme. This group is so much fun to be around, and I just think we like each other. We like being with each other. We just get along so well, and everybody's got a strength and everybody's got a weakness, and we come together and we build the strength and we build on each other's weakness, and we push each other. All they have to say is, hey, we're going to do a rededication up north, and we're traveling up north, or we're doing a cornerstone down the southern area. Everybody shows up. Of course, we're always studying on the rituals, and it's just a good group of guys. Like I said, we've been doing rededications and cornerstones and town halls. We pop in on the roadmap to the east with Wayne Spooner, such a great program. We just like each other, and we love the fellowship this fraternity gives. And sometimes we forget, we get excited, and we have appending bodies that we support and we back, the Scottish Rite, the York Rite, the Shrine Temples, the Shrine Clubs, and of course, all the youth organizations, Demo Lay, Job's Daughter, Rainbow Girls. We love sponsoring them, and we just work great as a team.
I think what's so great, and forgive me, we had the pleasure of doing so many interviews with so many wonderful grand officers, but someone had told us that you had the pleasure of several, I think it was Brother Angelo, that had said several good members had volunteered to be interviewed to be in that next spot coming up, and they had good candidates. Or maybe it's the Grand Master that told us that. But they had said, they're blessed with people wanting to get in that line. And that's a good sign too. That you've got people, good people that want to come in. And, you don't have to, settle for someone that's not, a good fit.
Well, and that's what we were discussing, because next year we'll probably be interviewing again, and we want a big pool. We want people to interview. We want it to be hard on us. Who do we pick? There is no qualifications. It's just, who interviews good, what we're looking for. It's just the right fit, and we look forward to that. And of course, it's another link in the chain. When you lose a Grand Master, everybody moves up and you get a new junior Grand Deacon.
Right.
And every position, it's a learning position, because you get more and more responsibilities. The deacons, they don't get the vote. They sit there. They're kind of like the freshmen and sophomores in high school. They'll sit there and watch and learn. If you got a question, we'll try to answer it. It's a learning process, and then they come up, and as you're moving through the ranks, you get more and more responsibility. So,
right.
it is without a doubt one of the hardest things I've done in this fraternity, and it's the most enjoyable.
For the public who may not understand, what is what is going in a cornerstone, and what is a rededication? So, could you explain to the non-Masons listening in what those two things that you do, which are very sacred and ancient rites that we've done for a very long time? So, what exactly are those?
Well, we have a dedication / rededication. So if we have a new lodge, um, brand new starting, then we're wanting to dedicate it. And it goes on into a ceremony. But most of the time, the lodges are celebrating 100 years, 150. Last year, my lodge celebrated 175 years. It's a rededication. It's a celebration of being active in the community, being active in that fraternity. Uh, every officer has a little bit of a ritual, nothing really big. The senior deacon has the most ritual, to be honest with you, and that's explaining the process and the ceremony. I really like the ceremony. I think it's very, very nice. With a cornerstone, it's almost the same thing as celebrating a lodge, but of course, a cornerstone is set in the northeast corner. A lodge itself may be moving to a building and they're setting a new cornerstone. They're actually chiseling in, carving that stone, and putting it in that northeast corner. And that's what a cornerstone is. And we actually bless the stone. We pour the corn, wine, and oil on the stone, and the officers have ritual on that too. And all these ceremonies date back, it's just a tradition. It's been used since the George Washington when he, commenced the cornerstone for the White House, and we try to keep that tradition going on.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome, Billy. It seems like it's exciting times in 2026, and it seems like there's a lot going on in Freemasonry in Illinois. If anyone listening in that's interested and wants to be part of a fraternity of good men and wants to become a better man, there's the Grand Lodge website. You guys have invested a lot of money in outreach programs that are on the internet on the Grand Lodge of Illinois website. It's a quick search button which will take you there within seconds. But Billy, you've been on the ground. You've been busy as a worshipful brother and also someone who's very active there whilst I've been away in Grand Cafe. From your perspective, what has it been like with the experience and the engagement that you've had with the likes of Right Worshipful Brother Patrick Grubbs, Angela DeSario, are most...
Well, I was going to, I've got to say that, Worshipful Brother Angelo did reach out and say that there will be some lasagna for us. It's coming soon. He said he's actually, I think when you got with Starman Armin and threatened to get his kids involved to get the lasagna, that's when he caved and said, he's going to bring the lasagna. If he has to come down here and bring it, he will. I said, Sam's all the way in China, so he's going to have to wait a little bit. And he said, well, when he gets back. So I said, I don't know. When he gets back, I'll let him know. So he's going to have some China. I don't know. Or some lasagna. I don't know if he's going to have to airmail it. I don't know if he's going to have to bring it down personally. But
mate, there's no lasagna here. There's no lasagna here.
What the holdup is now.
Yeah,
so
I'm
when
dying.
You come back,
I'm dying for some lasagna, Billy, big time. But no, I mean, this is what's symptomatic.
So we're gonna have to lay off. I think it took us. I'm gonna guess it took us 10 episodes to wear him down because at first he said we're not gonna get the lasagna, and 10 episodes in we've wore him down, and now he's gonna give us. He's
become world famous, right? World famous.
Yeah,
but you know what's really cool? The biggest aspect I get from the Grand Lodge of Illinois is family. It's the brotherhood.
Yeah.
It's that brotherhood and that leadership and that infectious enthusiasm that I'm all the way in China. And I'm ready to I'm ready to fire off on all four cylinders. Unfortunately, there's nothing here to do in terms of Freemasonry in the PRC. But if I could, I would. I'd be like, right, I need to go into the lodge and do this and this and this and this and trying to be emblematic of this great light, which is much needed in this world today. That is basically shining through in Illinois, and the rest of the world is listening in, and it's just fantastic. So, right worshipful brother.
I got to say, before we try to close this down,
Yes,
though,
go on.
before uh, the right worshipful brother Grubbs got in the line as hot and heavy as he is now, he traveled around a lot. And he traveled around with pretty much the same brothers all the time. And he knows who those brothers are. And those brothers, if they ever happen to listen in, they know who they are too. So they had a quite an interesting relationship. And they dog on each other pretty bad. And this is no secret to him. He knows exactly. So one of those brothers pulled me aside. He could probably guess who it is. It says, we never have to worry about him when he's Grand Master because we'll never let that go to his head. We're going to watch him real close all the way up that line. And if it start going to his head, we're going to knock that out of him right quick. And I said, I have no doubt you will. And they all laughed and laughed and laughed.
Yeah.
I said, okay. Oh, they're a great group. They're a great group.
Absolutely, and right worshipful brother Patrick Grubbs. He's a deep love of history. I love reading your historical posts. That's one of the most fun things to read when you get write those out. I think tradition and history is very intertwined in our fraternity, and it's great to see a Grand Officer being emblematic of that, and I think you all are. And again, the Memorial Day, what you guys did, you didn't have to do it, but you did it, and that was fantastic. And I know that you've yourself, have served your community in your actual, before you retired, in your actual day job, and everything you've done, and your life has been a life of service. And I think that's very important: duty, service to your community, to your country, in whatever extent it may be. Doesn't have to be military, doesn't have to be police force, but you can serve. And one way of doing that is being a Freemason. And so, any last words?
Nothing really. Our Grand Lodge is coming up. That's going to be October 9th and 10th. I'm going to guess hotel rooms are going to open up about in August or so be looking at that. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at some other things that I've got a list of stuff I got to do. July 20th is the MSAP golf outing up in El Paso. That's always a good time. And studying or looking at August 3rd, Hearst Lodge 1004 is going to be receiving the Most Worshipful Grand Master.
Oh, wow.
And then August 4th, the next night, my lodge is going to be receiving the Most Worshipful Grand Master.
That would be will you be back by then, Sam?
I hope so. All depends on family commitments here. I mean, I should have been back by just last month, but family commitments come first, and we're just trying to sort that all out before that gets all cleared, and then I can basically come back with the family and get back stuck in. I mean, it's just listening to what Right Worshipful Brother, our Grand Junior Warden Patrick Grubbs is saying, and Billy talking to you off air and on air, and my boys and my brothers in Frank and Nicole Lodge, and St. Paul's Lodge and the rest. It's just really nice to be in touch and see everything happen. The Grand Lodge is a Facebook page, it's a private Facebook page where people can join. You can see what's going on, and it just warms my heart. And as I said, in this world where darkness is ever encroaching, we need more light, and it's just a pride and joy to see the representation through our Grand Lodge of Illinois do such great work, and I can see the light all the way from here. So thank you, sir. Give my thanks to the Grand Officers. And anything you got? Any last words, Billy?
Yeah, I'd like to say, and I want to make it clear that I've had the pleasure of knowing Right Worshipful Brother Patrick for some time because of his traveling, because he was a traveling man for a long time before he was in that. And he traveled around and helped our lodge. And that's a long distance for them to travel before he even got into Grand Line. And so, but I want to make sure that there's nobody thinks there's any disrespect. I have all the respect in the world for that man and all the grand officers. I've got, because of the position I was lucky enough to have in the York Right, I got to know them a little bit better than some other people, but I have all the respect in the world for those guys, and they are the best guys. We joke about the lasagna with Brother Angelo and all these guys and the people, but every brother that I know have the respect for these grand officers and treat them with respect in person. There's joking around with them, and they're friends, and there always will be. But when it comes down to it, every one of these guys have respect and treat them with respect when that time comes. So just be aware of that. So if it comes across otherwise, it's not meant that way. And to end up with this, I'd say Godspeed to each and every one of you. And thank you for listening as always. And Patrick, right words for Brother Patrick. Again, here I go again. So thank you so much for coming on. And thank you to all the grand officers. And you guys always have an open invitation to come on to our podcast anytime you'd like to.
Well, thank you very much. It was truly an honor to be here.
Thank you for listening to On the Level Podcast, your Masonic podcast. When you are ready, duly and truly prepared, you can always knock on the door.